Hey guys, what's up? Levi here with Food Fight VFX, and today I'm bringing you another tutorial. Today I'm smoothing your actors' faces out, getting rid of all those blemishes and acne and scarring and things like that, and just really beautifying your actor or actress, especially for extreme close-up shots like this one. So let's take a look at what we've got. So here's the before. And there's the after. So we did two things in this video. The first thing is we removed a lot of those big scars and acne bits. You can see on the forehead, over here on the sides of his eyebrow, on his cheek, on this other cheek. There's all these little spots where there's acne or some sort of blemish. And we've gone ahead, we've tracked the face and used the clone stamp tool to remove those. The other thing that we did was we removed grain from the face, which is why his face looks so much smoother at the end. This is a very common technique that's been used and it's been talked about in a lot of tutorials before in the past. So this is nothing new, so to speak, but that's what we've got going on today. So if you want to follow along, before doing so, let's go ahead, have you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification icon so you guys get notified whenever we come out with new tutorials, and we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take our footage and we'll make a new composition. And so we just have our footage here, nothing special about it. I'm going to trim up the comp here. There we go. And what we're going to do first is we're going to remove these blemishes. But to do that, I'm actually going to be using a third-party plugin called Mocha Pro. Mocha Pro isn't going to handle the removal of the blemishes so much as once we've removed the blemishes, it's going to track that new image of his face blemish-free back over top of the original plate. And so we're going to be using Mocha Pro to get that tracking data. This is very similar to the most recent tutorial I put out where we added wounds to somebody's face. In this instance, we're going to be removing things from the actor's face. So we'll get started by going to Effect, Boris FX Mocha, and choosing Mocha Pro. Now, if you don't have Mocha Pro, there is a free version of Mocha called Mocha AE. It comes with After Effects. I should let you know that this technique will not work with the free version of After Effects. You will have to subscribe and get the Pro version. Now, if you head over to their website, if you've never used Mocha Pro before, you can download a 30-day trial of the software that's completely open and unlimited or unrestricted in terms of what you can do with it. And it's good for 30 days. So that's plenty of time for you guys to follow along with this tutorial and do this with your own footage. So once we've applied the effect, it's going to pop up here in the Effects Controls panel on the left side of our screen. We'll click on the Mocha icon to launch Mocha. Now that Mocha's launched, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our X spline tool here, and this is going to allow it to create a shape around his face. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to go around his hairline here. We're going to follow where we think his hairline goes. Come back in, go around his eyebrow. And we just really want to go around his face here. There we go. Make some adjustments here. And then I'll select all of these and we'll smooth them out. So we've got this shape around his face. So we'll click back on this shape and go down under the track panel. There's a new feature in the Pro version that you won't see in the AE free version of Mocha, and that's this Mesh button. So if we click on Mesh, what you see is it's taken this plane that we drew, this shape, and it's divided it up into smaller sections made up of triangles. And it's kind of chaotic, and there's large triangles and there's small triangles. So we're going to change the generation mode from automatic to uniform. And when we click on Generate Mesh, it's going to make a uniformed mesh of these smaller triangular shapes. And this is the mesh that we're going to use to track the surface of his skin. So for the minimum pixels used, we'll increase that to, say, around 50%. What the minimum pixels used calculates is how much of the pixel data is allowed to change between each frame inside of each of these triangular subframes. And the higher that is, the more accurate or similar, the pixels have to be from frame to frame. So we want to increase that a little bit just so that we get a more solid track. We're going to leave the smoothness at 50%, but imagine smoothness as being how tough or solid the surface that you're tracking is. If it's a flag that's waving in the wind, you'll want to set the smoothness down a little bit lower, actually a little higher, excuse me. And if it's like something flat on the side of a building, then we'll turn the smoothness down, letting the software know that, hey, this is a more rigid surface, so we should allow less movement overall. So once we've done this, we can go ahead and click on this button here. This is our track forward button, and we're just going to track forward and let the software do its thing. Now, because of the size of the subplane mesh, or the size of these individual triangular shapes, this is going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and we'll be right back as soon as this is done doing its track. Okay, so the track is done, and if I scrub back and forth on the playhead here, you'll see that all of those triangular shapes, subplane, it is tracking to the fade quite nicely. The only thing that really moves in this shot are his eyes as he kind of looks left and right, and the track also did a good job. If I zoom in here, you'll see of shifting and getting that track in. And that's going to be very important later on, because when we go ahead and remove the blemishes, we'll be doing that for a still frame, and we want it to still manipulate that still frame and move the eyes around. So we're looking good here. Let's go back to the very first frame that we started on and come up here to this button right up at the top called the Show Planar Surface, which you see is kind of, let me shut off the grid here. It has created this blue box. And what this represents is where the corner pin data of this mesh warp crack is going to be. We want to go ahead and click on the button two buttons down. It's the Expand Planar Surface button, which is just going to go ahead and expand that to the edges of our footage. As you see here, it moves with the track. And so we want to make sure we do that from that source frame. So I'll turn the mesh back on so we can see it. And then we'll go down to the Stabilize tab at the bottom. We'll want to click on the plus icon under Frame List, making sure that we're on the frame that we started on. And then over here, we're going to click on the Mesh Warp option under Warp Mapping. We'll make sure Unwarp is selected, and we'll do High Quality. And that's it. That's all we have to do in Mocha Pro. Once we've completed that, you can go ahead and click the Close button. It'll ask if you want to save. Just make sure you click Save, and it closes Mocha and brings us back into After Effects. All right, so now that we're in After Effects, what we're going to do, we'll rename this piece of footage, hitting the Enter key. We're just going to name this Clean Plate. And then we'll duplicate it by hitting Control D. And we'll rename this next one Still Frame. And that's how we're going to work with it. We're going to work with it as a still frame. So right-click on that still frame layer. We'll go up to Time, and we'll click on Freeze Frame. And what that's going to do is just freeze the frame and make a still image that we can work with. Once we've done that, go ahead, we'll right-click, choose Pre-Compose. We'll name it the same thing, Still Frame. Make sure that Move All Attributes is selected, and the checkbox underneath to adjust the composition duration is also checked, and then we'll click OK. Now comes the fun part. Up here at the top, there's this little stamp icon called the Clone Stamp. So we're going to click on that, and then we'll double-click on the composition for Still Frame, and that's going to open up a new window. This is our layer window, and this is where we're going to go ahead and start to remove those blemishes. So we're going to zoom in here, and we'll find a blemish that we're not happy with. And if you hold down the Alt key and click somewhere next to the blemish that we're going to remove, that will source the image data from that location. And then if we hover over the blemish and click, it's going to copy and paste essentially that over. And so that's what we're going to do for all of these blemishes. We're just going to click while holding Alt next to it, and then we will go in and paint out that blemish until we've got a nice smooth face. pretty easy stuff, nothing too complicated at this point. And we'll just double check. We'll kind of click and drag by holding the middle mouse button around a little bit. And just make those subtle corrections. Until we're satisfied. All right, looks good. We've gone ahead, we've removed those blemishes using the clone stamp tool. We're gonna come down here to where the still frame is in our layer window, and we're gonna drop that down, and then drop the effects tab down and find paint. And we just wanna make sure that these are expanded for the full length of the video file here, of this still frame. We wanna make sure that that clone stamp is covering the entire span of it. If we started on a frame somewhere around like the 3-second mark when we created a still frame, then we would have to click and drag all of these back to make sure that they line up back to the beginning. So with that being done, we're good to go ahead and close that up. And we'll want to pre-compose this one more time. So we're going to pre-compose it to lock in everything that we just did with the paint effect. We'll call this clean face. Yeah, clean face works. We'll click OK, and then we'll close the layer window and zoom in here. If I toggle that clean face on, you'll see you still have the clean plate or the original plate underneath, so you can see the before and after. But because this is a still frame, it's not moving, and so we need to correct that. So I'll solo the layer. I'll click on our clean plate footage, and we'll come up to the Effects Controls tab. Click on the Mocha Pro effect and hit Control-C to copy it. Then click on the clean face layer. We're still in the Effects Controls panel. We'll click inside of it, Control-V, and paste it. If we drop down the matte option and click on Apply Matte, what it's going to do is cut out that shape that we drew, and you'll see that that shape moves, but the face isn't moving, because we haven't applied that mesh warp data. So that's next. We'll drop down the module renders option. And under the module, we're going to choose stabilize warp. We'll make sure that the warp quality is set to high, just like we did while we were inside Mocha. And then we'll select the render tab. And now what you'll see is, if I get a preview of this, you'll see that the face is moving and warping. This is a still image, right? We needed it to be a still image so we could use the clone stamp tool. But all of that mesh tracking data that we took from the clean plate is manipulating this image and moving those little triangular sections around to essentially apply motion to this still image. You see his eye still moves and everything like that. We've taken a still image and given it back animation, essentially making it appear as though it is footage. However, it's not. That's the really cool part about what we're doing here. So what we'll do is we'll go back up to matte, and we'll feather the matte a little bit, which you'll see just kind of blends the edges here. And once that's done, we'll unsolo the layer so that the clean plate and everything around the sides of his face comes back to view. And if we preview this now, you'll see we've got a acne-free face. We removed a lot of those blemishes, and it's animated and it's still moving around. And that's why this is such a powerful technique, especially for shots where there's this extreme close-up angle of your actor. Now, the shot that's further back away from the actor, probably wouldn't need to use Mocha Pro. You could just maybe mask out the face and do a remove grain and just smooth it out that way. But that's the next step. We're going to go ahead, we're going to remove that gray just to finish this shot off. So what we'll do is we'll select the clean plate, or the clean face layer. we will go ahead and apply an effect called Remove Grain. And what that does is it puts this little box in view. We can go ahead, we can move it down here. This is the preview region. So if I drop down the preview region settings, you see that we can adjust the width and we can adjust the height. So we're going to make this box a little bit bigger so we can see easier what the difference from the original compared to the final. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and drop down the noise reduction settings. And this is where we can increase the noise reduction. This is going to start to smooth out this layer. So you see if I increase this really fast, and we look at that preview region, it's much smoother compared to what it was before. We can also increase the passes. I'll just take that all the way up to its max, which is 6. And you see we've got very smooth skin now, but it's a little bit too blurry. So we're going to lower that noise reduction value to somewhere around 1.5 to 2. We'll just play with that until we kind of like looking at it. If at any point you want to see what it looks like overall, it's very simple. You just go to the viewing mode and change it from preview to final output. And what that's going to do is it's going to apply the effect across the entire face. And it looks like a value of 1.5 is just perfect for this. It has smoothed out the rest of those blemishes. You'll see here if I toggle it on and off, he has all these sunspots on his skin, and they seem to vanish when we use the remove grain effect. And so remove grain has been a tried and true technique to smoothing out skin, especially on close-up shots like this, for many, many years. But it didn't do a very good job at removing those big, large pimples or scars or blemishes on the face. And so that's why we combined this effect with the clone stamp tool and Mocha Pro's Mesh Warp tracking. And lo and behold, we've got our final result here. His face is nice and smooth compared to the original. We'll go ahead, we'll just kind of toggle this layer on and off so you can see the original compared to the final version. So that's it, folks. Very simple process. It didn't take very much time at all. If you guys enjoyed this tutorial, please do me the solid favor of subscribing to our channel so that you get updates whenever we put out a new tutorial. Hit that bell notification icon as well so that you're the first to receive updates. Like and share the video as well. Leave comments if you have questions. I will do my very best to answer them and be very responsive to any questions or inquiries that you guys have. And if you guys take a stab at using this technique for yourself, please, I'd love to see the results. Send me a link in a comment or send us a message on YouTube here with the link to the video. I'd love to check out what you guys are able to accomplish using this technique. Once again, this is Levi with Food Fight VFX, and we'll catch you next time.